Las Vegas Sayadaw, the four kinds of rebirth. We're talking about Vitimuta, process-freed, right? We've been talking about the four kinds of planes, which include the four woeful states, the unhappy plane, Kamasugati, the sensuous blissful plane, the material plane, Rupavakara, and the immaterial plane, Arupavakara. These are the four kinds of planes. Now we'll talk about the four kinds of rebirth consciousness. We need to know this. The four kinds of rebirth consciousness include rebirth in the woeful states, rebirth in the sensuous, blissful plane, rebirth in the form sphere, and rebirth in the formless sphere. We'll now be talking about these four kinds of rebirth consciousness. So when we talk about rebirth consciousness, how many types are there? 19, right? What are they? 2 types of Santirana. Remember, they perform their duty as rebirth, life continuum, and death. The 8 types of great resultant consciousness, and the 9 types of sublime resultant consciousness. Altogether, that's 19 types of consciousness. We'll be discussing these. Firstly, it looks as though our rebirth depends on our karma, right? If we have good karma, then our rebirth consciousness should be Mahavipaka, right? And if our evil actions are unwholesome consciousness, then the resultant rebirth consciousness should be Santirana, right? Here, Akusala, unwholesome resultant consciousness, is Santirana, investigating. Consciousness accompanied by indifference, right? This consciousness acts as the rebirth consciousness, life continuum, and death. In what world? The woeful plane, Niraya, Tirakana, Peta, and Asura. These are the 4 woeful states. So this Santirana, that is, unwholesome resultant investigating consciousness, accompanied by indifference, acts as rebirth consciousness. Where? In the 4 woeful states. The person's rebirth conscious is ahetuka, right? Rootless. We call this person a dugati ahetuka person. They are reborn in apaya, the 4 unhappy planes. Du means bad, and gati means plane, so this is a bad plane. Only a person with this rebirth consciousness can be reborn in the apaya woeful states. What about wholesome resultant investigating consciousness accompanied by indifference? It functions as rebirth consciousness in what plane? The human realm and Katu Maharajika. Only those 2. 92. Process freed. What kind of person has rebirth consciousness that is wholesome resultant? Santirana Upeka. Those who are born blind, deaf, or mute. We're talking about people who have had disabilities since the time of conception. So, these people, and earth-born fallen asuras. What's a fallen asura? A minor god, right? We're talking about beings like tree deities. They stay with us in the human world but are technically a part of Katu Maharajika. These are gods, but minor gods. They can't talk about things like paradise and heaven because all they've done in their previous life was minor meritorious deeds. So even though they are gods, they have to stay in the human world. They might be attached to a tree or a mountain, or perhaps a pagoda. So these 2 types of beings have the same rebirth consciousness. In the human world, this person's rebirth consciousness is ahetuka, rootless, right? They are not reborn in apaya. Rather, they are reborn in the sensuous blissful plane, sugati. They are called a sugati ahetuka person. Suhaula means good, and again gati means realm. This is one kind of putujana. For those others who are reborn in the human realm and in the 6 celestial realms, their rebirth consciousness is one of the 8 types of great resultant consciousness. Here we're talking about human beings who are not born blind or deaf, and beings reborn in the 6 celestial realms. For these beings, we can classify their rebirth consciousness as either being accompanied by knowledge or being unaccompanied by knowledge. If their rebirth consciousness is accompanied by knowledge, then they have the opportunity to gain enlightenment. If their rebirth consciousness is not accompanied by knowledge, then even if they practice meditation, they have no chance of gaining jhana or enlightenment. Understand that, right? The 8 types of great resultant consciousness perform their duty on the sensuous, blissful plane. This means the human realm and the 6 celestial realms. So we've talked about 2 already, right? The first is consciousness that acts as rebirth, life continuum, and death in the woeful states. And the second is rebirth consciousness, whose duty is among the 7 sensuous, blissful planes. Now, go to Rupavakara Vipaka. We have 5 types of form sphere resultant consciousness, right? The first Rupavakara resultant consciousness acts as Patisandhi, Bhavanga 93 Las Vegas Sayadaw and Kuti in 3 specific Rupavakara realms, right? They are Brahma Parisaja, Brahma Purohita, and Maha Brahma. See that, right? This is the first Rupavakara resultant consciousness. The second and third types of Rupavakara resultant consciousness act as Patisandhi, Bhavanga, and Kuti in the second jhana realm. The fourth Rupavakara resultant consciousness acts as Patisandhi, Bhavanga, and Kuti in the third jhana realm. And the fifth Rupavakara resultant consciousness acts as Patisandhi, Bhavanga, and Kuti in the applicable realms of the fourth Rupajhana plane. So altogether, those are 5 types of rebirth consciousness. We also have 4 types of Arupa rebirth consciousness. We're referring here to the 4 types of formless sphere resultant consciousness. The Kasananyakayatanupaga resultant consciousness acts as Patisandhi, Bhavanga, and Kuti in the Akasananyakayatanupaga realm. See that, right? The second Arupavakara resultant consciousness acts as Patisandhi, Bhavanga, and Kuti in the Vijnananyakayatanupaga realm. The third Arupavakara resultant consciousness acts as Patisandhi, Bhavanga, and Kuti in the Akinyakanyayatanupaga realm. And the fourth Arupavakara resultant consciousness acts as Patisandhi, Bhavanga, and Kuti in the Navasanyan Asanyayatanupaga realm. So we have 4 kinds of rebirth. 1. For apaya, which is Upeka Santirana Akusala Vipaka. 2. For human beings and the celestial worlds, we have the 1 types of Kusala Vipaka Santirana and the 8 types of great resultant consciousness. These 9 types of rebirth consciousness perform their duty as Patisandhi, Bhavanga, and Kuti in the human realm and the 6 celestial realms. 3. For the form sphere, the 5 types of Rupavakara resultant consciousness perform their duty as Patisandhi, Bhavanga, and Kuti. 4. For the formless sphere, the 4th types of Arupavakara resultant consciousness perform their duty. For the realm of mindless beings, they don't have rebirth consciousness. Material form itself occurs as rebirth for mindless beings. The various types of material form will be discussed later. We'll discuss the rebirth of mindless beings then. 94. Process freed. Now you know about the 4 kinds of rebirth consciousness. Next, we'll discuss planes and individuals. What plane? How many persons, right? Planes and individuals. We'll start with the 4 woeful states. 1. Niraya. How many persons? Only 1, Dugati Ahetuka. This is the only one who can be reborn in apaya. This is 1 kind of Putujina. 2. Tirachana Yoni. This is the animal kingdom. Only 1 person, also a Dugati Ahetuka person. 3. Petaloka. This is the realm of hungry ghosts. Only 1. 4. Asurakaya. This is the realm of demons. Again, only 1 person, Dugati Ahetuka person. What about Manusa, the human world? How many? 11. In other words, all 12 types of persons, except for Dugati Ahetuka persons. Once again, the 12 types of persons include 4 Puthujana and 8 Arya. Let's talk about the rest of them, one by one. 1. Sugati Ahetuka person. What kind of person is this? Blind, deaf, or mute, right? And minor gods. 2. Dvihetuka person. Their rebirth consciousness is associated with 2 roots, aloba and adosa, without knowledge. 3. Tihetuka person. They have 3 roots. Their rebirth consciousness is alobha, adosa, and amoha. So we've covered the 4 puthajana. Now the 8 arya: 1. Sotapatti Magga person. 2. Sotapatti Phala person. 3. Sakadagami Magga person. 4. Sakadagami Phala person. 5. Anagami Magga person. 6. Anagami Phala person. 7. Arahata Magga person. 8. Arahata Phala person. 95. Las Vegas Sayadaw. So these 8 aryas and the 3 puthajana we just talked about can live in the human realm. Now, how many persons for Katumaharajika? The same 11 as for the human realm. What about for Tavatimsa? Only 10. See? Please remember and note that Katumaharajika has Sugati Ahetuka persons, though they can't live in the celestial realms. They live in the human realm, right? These minor gods don't have a place to stay in the heavens, so they live in the human realm. You might also think that Katumaharajika has blind or deaf persons, but it doesn't. So 10 persons can live in Tavatimsa. That includes all 12 types of persons, except for Dugati Ahetuka and Sugati Ahetuka persons. Dvihetuka and Tihetuka persons, and the 8 arya noble persons, can live in this realm. That's 10 types of persons. What about Yama? How many persons? 10. Tusita? 10. Nimanarati? 10. Paranimita Vasavati? 10. The same 10, right? 2 puthajana and 8 noble persons. Now let's go to the first jhana. How many realms? 3, right? For those 3 realms, how many persons can live there? 9. A Tihetuka person and 8 noble arya persons. So one realm has 9. There are 3 realms in the first jhana. So 3 realms multiplied by 9 persons amounts to 27 individuals in the first jhana realms. How many planes are in the second jhana? 3, right? One plane has how many persons? 9. Again, 3 multiplied by 9 is 27. The third jhana has 3 planes too. And again, one plane has 9 persons. So 3 multiplied by 9 becomes 27 individuals. How many persons for Vihaphala? Only 9. There's just one plane here. What are the 9 persons? A Tihetuka person and the 8 Aryans. How many persons for Asanyasata, the realm of mindless beings? Only 1. What kind of person? Sugati Ahetuka person. Why Sugati? This is the Brahma realm, so it's a good realm. And why Ahetuka? Because their rebirth is not connected to consciousness. It's material form, rupa, matter. Matter is Ahetuka. It's not lobha, dosa, moha, alobha, adosa, or amoha, right? It's rootless. That's why we call these beings a Sugati Ahetuka person, but really, it's a Tihetuka person. We call them a Sugati Ahetuka person because their rebirth is material form, which is Ahetuka. Really, though, it should be a Tihetuka person because they otherwise couldn't have been reborn in that realm. They had to gain 5th 96 process-freed jhana to be reborn there, but we term them as a Sugati Ahetuka person for rebirth because matter has no root. What about for Sudavasa, the pure abodes? 5 planes, right? How many persons on each plane? 3. An Anagami Phala person. This is a non-returner. An Arahata Magga person and an Arahata Phala person. Multiply these 3 persons by the 5 planes and you get 15 individuals. As for Arupa, there are 4 planes. How many persons on one plane? 8. What are they? A Tihetuka person is one of them. There's no Sotapatti Magga person because a Puthajana can't gain enlightenment. Sotapatti Magga. In the Arupa realm. Why not? Because they don't have ears to listen to Dhamma from someone else. They can't listen to meditation instruction. That's why there are no Sotapatti Magga persons in the Arupa realm. So except for Sotapatti Magga persons, there are the remaining 7 Aryans and the 1 Tihetuka person. Altogether, that's 8 persons. If one realm has 8, the 4 realms multiplied by 8 is 32 individuals. Altogether, how many individuals are there? 214. So now we know about the 31 planes of existence, lifespans, rebirth consciousness, and planes and individuals. Now we go to the special one, the 4 kinds of action. It's useful for everyone. We need to know about this. 97.